Okay, we're going to solve this one using the quadratic formula. And the first thing we need to do in order to solve it using the quadratic formula is to get everything onto one side. In other words, we've got to get this -9 and move it over to the other side. That way we get an accurate C, if you will. So let's do that now. Basically, we're just going to add 9 to both sides. So that's going to give me 4k squared plus 2k. And if I add 9 to both sides, that's going to give me a positive 9 on the left-hand side, and the other side is going to be 0. Okay, now we've got to remember what the quadratic formula is. And don't forget, on the test and everything, you can use the Ames reference sheet, but here it is just for your reference. That's the quadratic formula there, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So we've got to identify our a, b, and c here. This is our a, 2 is our b, c is 9. This is why it's important to move the 9 to the other side, otherwise you'll enter c as -9, and that would be incorrect. Okay, so now all we're really going to do is just start plugging this into our formula here. Okay, so let's do that now. So we've got x is equal, let's see, negative b is going to be -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times a, and a is 4, c, and c is 9. All divided by 2 times 4. Okay, so let's simplify that just a little bit here. Alright, so we're going to go, which equals -2 plus or minus the square root. Okay, so we've got 2 squared is 4. So then we're going to have 4 minus 16. 16 times 9 gives me 144. All divided by 8. Okay, I'm going to bring that down and just write it over here. That's going to be -2 plus or minus the square root of negative 140. All divided by 8. Okay, now we have an issue because we have a negative underneath our radical, underneath our square root sign. So that gives us our imaginary number. So we can look at that as the same thing as -2 plus or minus the square root of -1 times square root of 140. Maybe the easiest way to look at that. All divided by 8. Okay, so that is the same thing as -1 we know is just I. So we're going to go -2 plus or minus I square root of 140, all divided by 8. Okay, now we have to take this square root of 140 and break that down. Well, 140 is really just, let's see, 4. They've got a common factor of 4. If we were to do our factor tree off of that, that would be 4 times 35. Okay, so let's rewrite that. See if we can make some room here. I'm just going to move that up right there. Okay, so then we're going to bring that on down. That'll be -2 plus or minus. And it's going to be plus or minus, and 4, if we bring that on the outside, the radical is 2. So we're going to bring that out. And that's going to essentially be 2i square root of 35 all over 8. Okay, now I look at this one here and I say, okay, this 2, 2, and the 8 can be reduced. Essentially what we're going to do is factor out a 2 on top. So I'm going to do that now. 2 times -1 plus or minus 1i, which we just write it as I, square root of 35, all divided by 8. Okay, now our 2 we can reduce. That's gone. Our 8, that would turn into a 4. So my answer, in fact, on this one is just -1 plus or minus I radical 35 all over 4. It's a long process, but essentially you're just doing the quadratic formula. The only difference is you end up with a negative underneath the radical, and so you just pull it out in the form of an I.